Have you ever experienced something glorious? I mean, how would you describe glory? I was actually talking just earlier before Sunday school. Jim and I were talking that, and actually in the modern, Ephesus now, which is modern day Turkey, is one of the seven wonders of the world. Have any of you seen any of the seven wonders in person? They're wonders for a reason. They're magnificent. They might even say glorious. For me, it's one of the most amazing physical sights that I have ever seen is in the country of Jordan, and it's called Petra. Not the 70s Christian rock band that some of you may know, but it is, you go into Jordan, and I was a teenager, and I don't even know how we went there other than through a lot of, soldiers that spoke languages that I didn't understand, but we got in, and my dad did splurge at this point for us to be able to take the mules from the top where all of the motor coaches to ride down to this place called Petra, and we might even say something kind of like out west in the mountains, but it's this crevice in the desert, and then you go and then you see these huge buildings carved in the sides of these, I guess, cliffs. And I know most of you probably have seen them if you have ever seen Indiana Jones and the Quest for the Holy Grail. That's where you go into. And I think, wow, I can't even describe the height with which they are, these huge columns, and this is all before scaffolding and cranes and this, to think how really in the engineering, the mindset to be able to think of something like this, and not just that, to put it in action is absolutely beautiful. For some of us, something glorious might be a building. If you've ever built a house, people always say, build a house, and it's those of you that have gone through nothing probably test a marriage like building a house. But when you put all this hard work into it, you kind of go and you sit back and wow, we've done something. Maybe it's glorious when the birth of a child, or glorious when you feel like you've accomplished something that you never thought that you could have. But this morning, we're going to talk on this topic of true glory. So let's pick it up here in verse 48 of John chapter 8. So we read, the Jews answered him. Now, this is a continuation from last week. These Jews are the ones that claim to believe him, but the more he talks, the more they're not so sure they like to believe. And so now the Jews answer Jesus, are we not in right in saying that you are a Samaritan and have a demon? So they're calling him, after you're not a full Jewish person and you have a demon. And then Jesus answered, I do not have a demon, but I honor my Father, and you dishonor me. Yet I do not seek my own glory. There is one who seeks it, and he is the judge. Truly, truly, I say to you, if anyone keeps my word, he will never see death. The Jews said, now we know that you have a demon, because Abraham died, as did the prophets, and yet you say if anyone keeps my word, he will never taste death. Are you greater than our father Abraham, who died, and the prophets died? Who do you make yourself out to be? And Jesus answered, if I glorify myself, my glory is nothing. It is my Father who glorifies me, of whom you say he is our God, but you have not known him. I know him. If I were to say that I do not know him, I would be a liar like you. but I do know him, and I keep his word. Your father Abraham rejoiced that he would see my day. He saw it and he was glad. So the Jews said to him, you are not yet 50 years old, and you have seen Abraham? And Jesus said to them, oh, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am. So they picked up stones to throw at him. But Jesus hid himself and went out of the temple. Glory. Jesus speaks of this glory that he possesses, but not of himself, but glory of his Father. And the Jews, they found their glory. They would claim it in God, but it was exhibited in their outward appearances in following the law and following the rules, the rituals, their tradition. But Jesus, again, is just continually rebutting their accusations against him and their own false understanding of salvation. And so things are coming to it now. They're not just saying, this Jesus might be a little, off his knocker here. He might be, just a little radical. No, they're now saying, look, you've got a demon in you. I don't know, but I think if I were to go up to someone, hey, man, you got a demon in you. If they didn't, then they would, they'd probably act like they wouldn't, punch me in the face. Yeah, that's just not an accusation that normal people would make. But yet Jesus, again, in the same way that he always does, responds to them, while not directly, but perfectly. And he says, look, man, you're saying I'm the one with the demon, but I'm the one that honors my Father. And you don't honor the Father because you dishonor me. So we know from last week that Jesus was teaching them that you can find salvation through Jesus by abiding in the Word, in who Jesus is and what he has come to accomplish. We would say the gospel of Jesus Christ. And we know that this abiding, this is not just an intellectual understanding. It's not just a simple a step of faith, but it is this continual following of Jesus Christ, believing it with all of that you are. We would say faith and trust in Jesus Christ. And we know that he knows that, as he says, that they cannot keep his word. They think they keep the word, the Old Testament scriptures, the Hebrew scriptures. They think that they're doing good. They think that is going to earn their righteousness. But we know that faith does not come through works, but it comes through Christ. And so for those of us that keep the word of Jesus, we are, say, kind of hitching ourselves to the one who does keep the word perfectly. And the consequence of keeping the word is that you will never see death. Now, is Jesus speaking of physical death here? No, he is not. For we know that all of us, until Jesus returns and we're taken into to glory, that we will all physically die. That is a result, a negative consequence of the fall and of Adam and Eve in the garden. But we can see that the Jews still did not grasp what Jesus is saying, because they go and look, obviously you've got a demon. Abraham, our father Abraham, he's the one that died. The prophets all have died, and you're saying that if you keep the word, then you will never taste death. It's like, are you better than Abraham? Are you better than the prophets? And you know what I mean? Jesus could actually go out and say, yes, absolutely, I'm better than them. But he doesn't do that. Again, no, he goes on to say, look, I don't have to glorify myself. No, in fact, if I did, it says here that my glory is nothing. Have you ever been around somebody that, is always talking about how much money they have or how successful they are or maybe how good looking they are? It's like, if you have to continuously, if you're the only one that is continually making these claims, they really don't mean anything. Do they not? But if you have others that believe in that, yes, you are those things that then it gives you that much more validity. But think how incredible it would be that the God of the universe would glorify the Son. It doesn't get any better than that. And Jesus again saying, you do not know God, but I know him. And then he goes on and says, look, I know Abraham. I know the prophets. I've been with them. And yes, on the surface, on a human a level, that makes no sense because they died long before Jesus was born in that manger in Bethlehem. But what is Jesus' reply? He says, truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am. Where else have we seen these two words, I am? It goes back to the very law of God, the Old Testament, when the God appeared to Moses and he said, what shall I tell the people who you are? And he says, I am. Those words are blasphemous, and that they are worthy of death. And in fact, these Jews were ready to pick up stones to kill Jesus because he claimed to be God, and it would be a deserving punishment if it were not true. But Jesus is God. Closes, we know that everything is done according to God's plan, and Jesus is not his time for him to die, and so he escapes out of the temple. So what is glory? Right now we are. It seems that we in this day and time where glory is all about ourselves, the shining ourselves, that one shining moment. Right? We're coming into March Madness. Who don't know who's going to be in the tournament, but that's it. You work your way all the way to the end, to the Final Four, and then they play one shining moment at the end, and the national champion basks in the glory. We saw several weeks ago, right? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a interesting fashion celebrating their glory of winning the Super Bowl. People are just so excited. They're rushing to see them because they want to take part of that glory. It's like if you can just get close enough, that it maybe can kind of rub off on you. And we see this, and especially now that, because you can become famous for doing nothing by just taking some pictures and snapping and doing all of that stuff and just, talking about just common sense stuff. But people now, they think of you as an influencer. And so what you do is you find the big influencers, and then if you can just get one of them to retweet you, or if you can get one of them to tag you in a picture, then what does that do? Then that connects you with them. And then all of a sudden you get all of their followers, and that builds your platform. And pretty soon, hopefully, you're able to have greater influence. In the thought, I would assume, I'm not there, hopefully I never get there, but is that money and influence flows from that. And we see that, how unstable for one that is, but really what do we have? How quickly can one go from glory to nothing? I just think this past week, maybe when Tiger Woods just had a wreck. Somebody that has gone through so much, he has been at the pinnacle of success, more money than who knows what, and we've seen that with the glory that comes, we've seen the temptations that flow from that. And we've seen him basically for a decade or better live in a lot of misery. And who knows whether his time is done in golf. Regardless, he's never going to be what he thought he was going to be. Can you imagine? I remember I was there at Valhalla when it was his first major. See him, and I think when he was there that he thought that my life is going to end up where I am now. No, when we're consumed with our own glory, we never think that we're going to be the one that falls on our own sword. No, we think that we're just going to keep going up and up. The sky is the limit, and when things are all about us, rarely do they work out well. Now we might think, well, we're followers of Jesus. The church, that doesn't affect us at all. And honestly, we're probably more guilty of seeking our own glory than the secular world is. I can't tell you how many times I open up Christian news sites and there's another pastor that was the pastor of the celebrities and now is no longer a pastor because he allowed the glory to get to himself and he squandered it. And I think, well, maybe we can escape that here on earth. And we've seen even other Christian influencers, and we don't even think that who are no longer here, but when we look at their past, we reveal that, yes, they knew the word, but they didn't abide in the word. Their life, while we thought looked like they followed Jesus, but their reality, what we see now, does not jive with that. And look, I'm not questioning one's salvation. That's between them and God. But we can see that in the lives of some that there is a disconnect between what we proclaim and what we live. And the temptation to seek our own glory, and when it's continuously trying to capitalize on that glory, and then we end up, the temptation is so great where we end up in places where we never thought we would go. So what kind of glory should we seek? What kind of glory should we seek? Obviously, you can see where I'm going here. It's not our own self-glory. We should not seek the praise of men, the praise of others, for it, at best, it is temporary, and at worst, leads us to a path of destruction. And not just that, but it leads other people astray as well. So the glory that we are to follow is the glory of the Lord. The glory of God in the highest. We sing songs about it, and we talk about glory, and it's the glory that shines on God through His Son. So for those of you that are here today that are searching, so many people are searching for something, and honestly, I think it in part is glory, and I would kind of even just get practical with is this sense of fulfillment, this sense of my life means something, that people think that I'm valuable, that I do good, and I've staked my claim, my place in society, and we that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? We should work hard. We should seek to do well. We should strive to do good for the community. But in reality, what are we doing it? What are we doing it for? In fact, I was just the other day kind of thinking, we're in the season of Lent. And what is Lent? Well, it's the 40 days leading up to Easter. And, historically, churches it's a time of sacrifice to kind of prepare our hearts, to align ourselves with Jesus, who made the ultimate sacrifice. But what I've noticed over these last several years, at least in my generation and those people that I kind of see throughout my life, is that Lent has turned into not a time of sacrifice to align ourselves with Jesus, but rather it is a season for us of self-improvement. All right, so, all right, and look, how many we're addicted to our phones? All right, we know that that's not good, so what do? Well, all right, we're going to do away with Facebook or Instagram. But before you do, obviously, you got to go out there and tell everybody that you're doing that, because you need to let your people that you want to influence to do the same thing that you do. But in reality, we're doing away with this so that it'll make us better. Right? Even to the sense, mostly with fasting. Right now, we're in the sense that we're fasting is no longer a spiritual practice, but it's a health-wise, and that's okay. But we've now said, well, I'm going to fast so that I get, I get health benefits. I don't know, but I was just sort of thinking, and this is not thus saith the Lord. This is just how my mind is thinking. But for somebody who is a health nut that is all about making sure that everything is just right, and so by saying fasting is a way for me to connect with God. Honestly, I think it would be more sacrificing for them to eat a Big Mac every day. But that's the thing. We can take even the good things of God and turn them into self-gratification, self-betterment, and self-improvement. And that is not what seeking the glory of God is. No, first, seeking the glory of God is seeing God for who He is, revealed through His Son, Jesus. It is rooted in the gospel of Jesus Christ, that God loved you so much that He sent Jesus to come to live the perfect, sinless life that you could not live, no matter how many times you follow intermittent fasting, or how many times you check off the box that you've read your Bible through, or however many hours that you do away with Facebook. No. Jesus lived the sinless, perfect life that we could not live. But He died the death that we deserved. That's what the Jews did not get. They thought that they were being the righteous ones by putting Jesus to remove the threat to stone Him, and little did they know He already knew He was going to die. But it wasn't for their glory. No, it was for His glory. So God was glorified through the death of His Son. You talk about Good Friday being a dark, somber day. And it is. It's the day that Jesus died. But He didn't stay dead. No, for Jesus defeated both death and our sin by rising from the dead. He did what no one ever done. He did what Father Abraham could not do, what the prophets could not do, what any other so-called Savior or God could not do. And that is what our faith is in. It is in Jesus Christ. And when we pursue Jesus with everything that we have, when we seek to glorify Him, this is just, I love this, is that when we glorify God, we receive some of that. And when I love singing praises to God in numerous styles, whether it's a bluegrass number or a with an orchestra or with just guitar, and there's just something that's just special about singing praises that honestly the world really doesn't get. But it does. It just there's a connection there, and I feel like we receive some of God's glory. We get to see God's glory when we see someone come to faith in Jesus Christ. We praise for God saving those that are lost, because that's what Jesus came to do, to seek to save the lost. We rejoice with those that see God working in their lives. And we even can see God's glory when those that we know and love, and maybe even ourselves, suffer. We gain by losing, by dying to ourselves. And when we do so, when we see ourselves as who we really are, and when we see Jesus as who He really is, that, my friend, is when you can experience true life that you're not going to get from anything else. So may we, unlike these Jews, may we seek to glorify God, deflecting glory from ourselves to Him, for He is good. He is worthy of our praise, and He is someone that we should follow. So many of us are disciples of people here on earth, and whether that's me, whether that's a celebrity preacher, whether that's a sports figure, I guarantee you that you will be not just disappointed, but you will feel like you've been failed. I promise I will fail you. I may not do it intentionally, and I never wanted to cause anyone harm, but I'm not the one that we need to follow. No, Jesus is the one that we are to follow. So what does that look like for us? Well, it depends on where you are, who you are, what influence that you do have. Influence in itself is not a bad thing. It is when we artificially make it something that it's not. But are you known as a person that, not a halo in the sense that you're a goody two-shoes, but that people know that you reflect God's glory, that you are a glory reflector. Maybe that's at work or at school, or maybe that's within your own family. And right now we're in this season where I think a lot of things are being tested, because it's easy to say, yeah, we're shining a light when there's no problems, but when there's tension, when there's conflict, when there's suffering, it's harder. We're being tested, but the good thing is that we grow when we are being tested. We grow stronger, not in of ourselves, but we're more prepared. We're more prepared, and we see more beauty in God versus the other things. But also, what is it about us as a church? How are we as Central Baptist Church in Maysville, Kentucky to shine the glory of God? I think it does. It comes through worship. Right? It comes through the gathering of the saints. It comes through the studying of His Word, but not in this kind of legalistic type of sense, because we can even be puffed up by our own seeking to do the right thing. But we seek God's glory when we make much of Him. Now, I was talking with somebody the other day, just kind of looking at different trends of how people had the relationship with their faith in between that and the church, and those that are kind of the greatest generation, those that coming out of the Depression, World War II, that era, and pretty much their entire life was revolving around church. Not just going to church anytime the doors were open, but all of your friends were church people, right? That's just who you ran with, and then you kind of see the next, I guess, the boomer generation. It was kind of, church was still very important. We're still there. Whenever the doors are open, kind of a deal. But yet we had work outside of that. Maybe we through coaching kids sports, or through our own jobs or other just leisure activities. And then, even, I guess you get down to my generation, and, at some, it's probably even less, yes, not speaking generalities here, but, we value the church, and we want to make it as, integral as, but we also see not just coming into a building, but it is also giving of ourselves in service to those outside. And, we all do bits and pieces here and there. It overlaps, but each one of us that's how we are reflecting the glory of God. And the tough part is sometimes we think one is better than the other, and they all have unintended consequences. For those that your entire life was in church, you never did anything outside of church. Well, the danger of that is you're never around any lost people. How can you share the gospel if you're never around any lost people? And I don't know, we can look at the number, but those that, we can see that the large growth, at least in the Southern Baptist, in that era in the 60s, late 50s, 60s, 70s, the baby boomers, is because we had a bunch of babies. And then we got the next group where it's, yes, we were here at church all the time, but, we're out in the, and so the danger of being so involved is that, honestly, we find more fulfillment. We would rather be out with other people than we would even being in the church. I don't know if that's good either. And so what I'm saying is that yes, we're all here in this together, but we have to be careful that we even in that we don't make it about us. We are glory reflectors, not glory absorbers. And when we reflect the glory of God by shining the light of Jesus, people will notice. People will notice, those inside of the church and those outside of the church. Now, those outside of the church may react in a positive way, but sometimes they may react in a negative way, as they did with Jesus. But that's okay, because we're in good company. And that's I'm just so, thank God that for Central Baptist, and just the ability for me to be able to come and to serve here, is that we do. We have this sense of shining the glory of God. And sure, we all are selfish in one degree or another at certain times. But I was just talking with people in other places and that involved in church life, and just hearing how they talked about other people in the church, and just the tension, the conflict that they have. It's heartbreaking. And so may we, as God's people, may we as Central Baptist Church continue on following the light and pointing others to Him.